Welcome to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. In this show, we're not just rewatching, we're going behind the scenes, deep into the anime story, unearthing intrigue, and exploring new theories about the Attack on Titan universe. The majority of each episode is spoiler-free. Then, after a warning, we'll take a few minutes to connect the dots with storylines from future episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, but don't forget, you can join us for the live broadcast Sunday nights on Facebook and watch every episode on YouTube. Links will be in the show notes. With that, let's get into the conversation. Hey, welcome, Glass Clinkers. Welcome to episode 5 of Beyond the Basement. I'm one of your hosts. Oh, sorry, wait. Salute everyone. Sasageo! Which I'm pretty sure means heart in Japanese. We're
or something.
If you know Japanese and are watching this / listening to this, we apologize.
Sorry. Please help
poor
us.
Japanese, seriously, actually, genuinely help us. Anyway, I'm Eric, one of your hosts. Over here is...
I'm Pete.
I'm Rachel.
And this is the Beyond the Basement podcast. Welcome to episode 5, where things get real fast.
Finally.
So
We've been waiting.
intense.
So intense.
Oh
so
my
fast.
gosh.
So let's do a quick recap of the episode. So this one starts off, obviously, where the previous episode left off. After 5 years, the Armored Titan appears again. But this time, guess who's standing on the wall? It's Eren and a bunch of the basically freshly graduated cadets. They haven't even all been put out to their permanent assignments yet. So Eren's there.
They haven't selected their areas yet. They're just ready to go.
Yep, they're there, cleaning stuff. Everything's good to go. Colossal Titan, the giant one, appears again. And this time Eren's like, no, I'm not going to run. I'm going to try and fight this guy. So Eren goes out there, sees that this is not like the other Titans. He actually says this one seems intelligent, it even looks like it's looking at him. And so Eren goes in to fight this thing, and he goes in to take a slash at him, and he disappears mysteriously. Then let's see here. I want to make sure I actually get this in the correct order. Okay, so then it becomes pretty obvious that the rest of human civilization is in trouble. We cut to Armin and the cadets or whatever, and they're all freaked out. They're getting ready to go fight the Titans because that's what they got to do next. Oh, sorry. He's also cut a hole in the wall. Forgot about
I was
mention
going
that
to say,
part.
he kicks a hole
Colossal
in the wall
Titan
and
kicks
takes
a
out
hole
the
in the wall.
cannons.
Yep. He takes out the cannons, kicks a hole in the wall. Then we cut to the cadets getting ready, and they're like, oh crap, and there's maybe no way possible. So they say to plug this hole. This looks like disaster. They all kind of get sent out. They're going to get sent out in their squadrons. Everybody's super freaked out. The cadets have never seen battle. Nobody has really seen battle at this point. Nobody in the scenes that we're watching. And then there's a little flashback, which is, am I getting this right order here? Yeah, cadets move out. Okay, then the flashback happens to where you see the cadets when they were in school, and you're kind of getting this little informational bit where they tell you a bunch of juicy details about Titans,
Hallelujah,
about the world, and this is where it starts getting good. They're feeding you the information. They're already starting to answer questions that you've been asking since episode 1. So we get that flashback. Then one of the details they mentioned is that Titans are vulnerable in the back of the neck, which explains why Eren was going for the back of the neck of the Colossal Titan. Then they start to move out. Eren's all gung-ho, as you would expect. Has a little run-in with Jean, and is like, no, we're going to go in this thing. We're not going to be afraid. Everybody needs to, get up and go. So they all get pumped. They go out there to fight, and they start getting creamed.
It's so awful.
And this episode just gets so real so fast.
Gosh.
So everybody starts getting freaking eaten, and Eren's like, not on my watch. I'm going to go in there, and he gets chomped. No problem.
Because he's screaming like a maniac, I'm right here.
Unceremoniously gets his leg bitten off, and then Armin freezes in the midst of battle and gets dropped into a Titan's mouth. And then there's another flashback, and we get some more juicy details about what maybe even be outside the walls, which is the point of the show. And finally, we end with the death of Eren.
Eren gets swallowed.
His arm gets cut. So he's missing a leg and an arm.
Chopped off
and now
first.
he's just food.
And now he's eating.
And Armin's on the roof, and they do what they always do in the show, to be continued.
Terrible cliffhanger.
Yeah, terrible cliffhanger, which is every episode. So that's why you had to binge this show. Okay, so let's jump in. This first scene. So this one's also this episode is called The Battle for Trost. So this is happening in a city called Trost. And remember, when they broke through the walls the first time, they had the little alcoves on the outside of the walls. that's where they broke through the first time. 5 years later, it's the same thing, but it's the next wall in. It went from wall Rose, right? Is the one on the outside, I think. And wall Maria.
Maria.
Maria's the one that just broke, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're breaking into the second tier.
Right.
And something important to note about this episode, the setting is, the first time everyone was lax. Everyone was like, nothing bad could ever happen.
Yeah, feeling confident.
All the guards are drunk. No one's taking anything serious. Everything's happy-go-lucky. A horrible tragedy that no one could ever expected happens, right? Mm-hmm. This is 5 years later, right? So in 5 years, how prepared can you get for the terrible reality, what's to come? Pretty stinking prepared, right? They've got all these new troops trained. New information. They've got new cannons on the walls. You can see where the gate is. They've dug trenches, the barricades. They've got a little moat thing going on. Mm-hmm. They've got all these contingency plans. The advanced regiment is ready to respond immediately. People are ready to go. They're already talking. As soon as the Titan shows up, they've been waiting for this, right? And as ready as they are, as all set as they could get in 5 years, they've got all these new people ready to go, all these new plans and everything. It's still a terrible disaster because Titans are just so overwhelmingly crazy, right?
Yep. And so this battle is interesting because, like, again, we spent the first several episodes, and I think we've mentioned this plenty of times, like, wasted frame of the show. They're always setting you up for something, lots of details. And the episode 4 is where the show really starts to take off. That's where the pivot happens. Yep. You get a lot of action. And what we're seeing here is, again, we've been looking at Eren's like character development, and we know Eren's motivation. I want to kill all the Titans. Yep. And Eren actually says it. So right as he goes to swing into battle with this thing, one of the first things he says is, I'm gonna end this right now. Like basically this big one is the cause of all the other Titans pouring through the walls and killing everyone. He's like, if I can kill him, like, I can end this right now.
I'll stop you right now. And something important to know, as Eren flies up in the sky trying to attack this Colossal Titan, is he realizes he kicked the gate in again. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't an accident.
Not an accident.
This one has intelligence.
That's the line, which is terrifying.
Wait a second. Mm-hmm. This thing is not just some mindless zombie. This thing is actually intentionally trying to kick the gate down. Yeah. For why? Why would someone do that?
And then doesn't he sweep the wall?
Yeah, he sweeps all the cannons away.
He says that
so you're like,
line.
oh, okay. Oh, by the way, that's another thing. So, before they could barely even load and shoot the cannons, as the guys are barreling down this one-way alley, and now they're shooting the cannons and they're hitting these Titans on the go. Right. They're hitting it with accuracy. They've been training. They've been ready, right? Mm-hmm. And even with all that, this Colossal Titan takes out all the mounted cannons on the wall, kicks the gate in. Oh no. And everyone says, look, we know that this Colossal Titan's back, which means there's a high probability the armored Titan's going to show up anytime soon.
They say
if he breaks through the walls, we're done for.
Right. And so Eren swings into battle here and is like, I'm going to go for the back of the neck on this thing, right? Because as we find out a little bit later in the flashback, that's where supposedly Titans are vulnerable, or at least that's where you can cut them or wound them in such a way that they won't regenerate. Yep. So he goes to swing in for the back of the neck. There's this like steam cloud
and then
thing.
He releases steam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Colossal Titan shooting steam out.
And Eren goes to like zoom in on the back of the neck through this like cloud.
Well, he like overpowers it. He's like, no, I'm gonna continue. Like my will is so strong that I'm gonna continue on, and I'm gonna freaking get this thing killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he goes in, and the Titan like literally disappears
in the steam. He just
which calls to mind episode 1, really, which is the same thing. It's like, okay, how did something that big, like, did we just, did the show just not tell us? Like, where did this Titan go? And it's really the same question here is, he's so big, he's doing so much damage, the armored Titan did a bunch of damage too. Where the heck did they go? So that's a good question. You should be asking that question right now. For all the answers you get in this episode, of course, it opens up a lot more questions. Just know that you're supposed to be all the questions you're about to have. You're supposed to be asking, and I promise you, like, it's all intentional. In due time, all the puzzle pieces start to fit together.
And this is something I got to say because, I was a big fan of Lost. I was a big fan of, a lot of mystery shows. I love trying to figure out all the inner workings. And I want to encourage you guys, if you're, detective minded like I am, this is not a show that will lead you on and make you hate your life. This is a show that will slowly feed you information bit by bit, and you'll get all the juicy answers you want. they're not just in purgatory. Okay, this is good things are going to happen. You're going to learn a lot about the characters, and this lightning striking, these titans appearing out of nowhere and seemingly disappearing, quicker than my government refund check. It's crazy.
It's just gone. Any thoughts on that scene, Rage? Okay, so
the hole is 8 meters wide.
Yeah, the hole's 8 meters wide.
26 feet.
So we learn all this in the next cut. So that's kind of the first just couple of minutes, really, the episode. The next part is they cut to, we see all the cadets in the square, we see Armin preparing. That's first, isn't it?
There's
where he's
also
doing the
a point
gas
where
tank
we
thing.
meet a certain person.
Where is that cut? I skipped that in the recap.
You did
didn't
skip
I?
that.
Yeah.
That's before Armin and all of them are in the. I think.
Yeah. Okay. No. I think it's right here because okay. Yes. So it's before the
Or
cadets are in the
right
square.
after Armin's freaking out.
We meet. So all right. So it cuts away, and so quick explanation. So hole in the wall. A Colossal Titan disappears. There's clearly at least some time before the Titans start to come in, start filling in.
But we see them starting to run.
We do see them starting to run in, right? So there's a little bit of elapsed time. So we know that now the military is all right, plan the. What does that one guy to say to Eren?
Advanced regiment assault. We expect you guys to
Well, he says the
part.
Colossal Titan attack defense, is now in order or whatever. Yeah. So then, we cut to Armin, and he's trying to fill the gas tanks for the ODM gear, and he's shaking and freaking out, and that's the right. And immediately you're getting the vibe of oh no, what the heck?
It's real. It's gotten real.
It's gotten really real.
He's the one that's spouting out all. There's a hole 8 meters wide, and we have no engineering, and blah blah blah.
Because Armin's a thinker, right?
His strategic mind is seeing all the holes.
Yeah.
Just completely unraveling.
Yeah, he says. So, we can also get that quick cut of that couple that we've mentioned last time. It's one of the only actual couples you see. Promise me everything will be okay, and then it pans over to Armin,
and then
it's
not going to be okay.
It ain't gonna
Everybody's
be okay.
crying and rocking back and forth, and just please let it be a dream.
Armin basically says this breach means that everybody's going to die, which he's correct. He's doing his deductions, and then he says he actually mentions there's a boulder in the town that could fill this hole, and the hole's 8 meters wide, so on and so forth. But
how do you get the boulder to the
how do
hole?
you
don't even have the engineering available.
You don't have leverage.
We don't have the engineering available to repair this wall, to fix this in time, all this kind of stuff. And so this is one of the questions. The reason I wanted to talk about this, because this is a question you're supposed to ask, which is, okay, wait a second. Well, how did the walls get there in the first place?
They don't even have the engineering to get a boulder
fix
over
it.
there.
Nobody remembers how you built the things?
Well, I mean, building a wall is an intense process. There's a lot
Especially
of
ones that
scaffolding that
big.
goes up. What were the Titans doing while they were building the walls? Did they run so far away from the Titans they had enough time? How could they hold them off long enough? We learn in this episode they have cannons for quite a long time.
Yeah, they've had them for 100 years.
But they seem relatively ineffective. They're hard to aim. The Titans can move
They
around.
haven't really improved their design.
Yeah, so it kind of raises some additional questions about, okay, but if you guys can't even... We know the garrison's in charge of repairing the walls, so they have some method of repairing them. They transport stuff on the walls. They get up on top of them. They traverse them. So there must be some way. It must not be quick and efficient, and it must not be able to bear that much weight.
Right.
As Armin's saying. That Titan kicked a hole in the wall, and it kicked a hole in all of Armin's plans for the future.
Yeah, indeed. All of humanity's plans for the future. But so it's another good question being, all right, so this big Titan can break through the walls, but the other Titans for 100 years couldn't. And so why was there 2 attacks? There's all these questions that should be going through your mind.
Intelligent attacks.
Yeah, and strategic, planned. And then one of my favorite little bits here is so Armin's wigging out hard, trying to fill his gas tanks, and Eren and Mikasa are there, and they're like, "You okay, bud?" And he's like, he's shaking.
Just let me settle my nerves.
And Eren, which this episode, his kind of pigheadedness, his boorishness about no, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna do this, actually works to the advantage of troop morale, pretty obviously, because he tells Armin, he says, you're focused on the past, and what you need to be looking for, don't forget about all that. He's like, what you need to look for is the future. He says, we're not victims anymore. And that line gets me, because I'm like,
Let's go, Eren. Let's go.
That's the attitude. Whether or not, regardless of what the odds are, regardless of what you do or don't know, Eren is saying, no, we trained for this. This is what this was. Eren is starting to fulfill his purpose already a little bit, which is, no, I'm going to put in the work to go outside the walls and to kill all these Titans. I'm going to do it. And I've done it. We've done all this training. We've survived a lot already. Let's get into this thing.
He's fulfilling the prophecy, the promise, or the failure of his previous, where he wasn't strong enough to save his mom. He wants to get strong enough to save somebody. He's going back to the first episode where the scouts come back and the mother says, "Was my son useful?" Right? You could even go Shining Time Station. All the engines, they just want to be really useful engines, right? Eren wants to give his life for something greater, and we all want a purpose to live for. We all want to do something more than just ourselves, right? So this is calling to like this deep truth of Eren wants to be worth something more than just, a breath in the wind. He wants to be worth something more than just to live and to eat and to drink this day. He wants to give his life for a purpose and a cause, and that purpose and cause shakes Armin out of this fear. It reminds him, hey, we're not just victims, okay? The past, we can't control. It's been wrought with terrible things, but the future is something we can shape, right? And if we give our lives for this, if we stand up for what we believe in, if we go and we fight, our lives can be worth something, and we can help people.
Again, a storytelling element, a virtue, if you will, that I think is missing from a lot of American stories, and so it's interesting that we find it here in Japanese anime. I've said this before as well, but again, a good story well told, doesn't matter what the medium is. It's still a good story.
Yeah.
I'm in.
They're not afraid just to have good morals on a show.
Yeah.
And I miss those days.
Yeah. A character with a strong central virtue where his like radicalness isn't a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. So then we cut to what you were mentioning earlier. Then we cut to this scene. Somewhere in the interior, it looks like a palace. We meet somebody named Lord Wald.
It's
like a perfect palace, though, because it's in the middle of a lake, right?
Yep.
And so it's like
There's
a perfect
like all
Titan
these
defensible.
Gardens and
It's got the unicorn,
it's beautiful.
A military police symbol on the walls.
Yeah, the military police. Yeah, so this is something I wouldn't suggest doing a lot of Googling if you're watching this for the first time because you'll run into spoilers. But anyway, it's hard to get them all together. But there's like the 4 like different logos for each of the different like divisions of the military. The unicorn looking one is the interior,
which they tell us
military.
in a previous episode. I think.
I think they do say it. I think they do.
Because of graduation and stuff.
Yep.
And so we get there, we meet Lord Wald and somebody called Commander Pixis, and they're playing a game of what looks like chess. And he's like, "Oh, got you again, Pixis," or whatever. And like, he's like,
while he's eating his like pastries, 7 at
gluttonously.
once. He's
just like your stereotypical.
He's like what the Japanese think of when they think of like European colonizers.
Colonists,
like,
yeah.
You're freaking fat, balding, prideful.
He's dressed like the French Revolution era.
And he's just stuffing his face like, "Oh, if you can't even beat," and he says something really powerful, Pixis, "If you can't even beat me in this game, how do you expect to beat the Titans?"
Yeah, to beat a Titan, which is like hilarious. So they don't know attack has just happened again at this point. Clearly they don't, because a messenger shows up to tell them that.
Yeah.
But
and then he drops his glass.
So they're playing this game. Wald beats Pixis or whatever, and Pixis says something like, "Oh, I just like can't match you in skill." And he uses one of my favorite words in the English language, which I learned from video games. Okay, video games can teach you stuff. The word is obsequious. Okay,
obsequious.
So I actually learned this. So if you play League of Legends,
today's vocabulary word,
and more specifically, if you play, you can learn stuff on this show, guys. That's why you should watch. League of Legends. If you play Kayn, Kayn is like a character who's got like 2 like natures or 2 whatever, and they talk to each other as you're playing the game a little bit. And Rost, Red Kayn, says to Blue Kayn, he's like, "Your obsequiousness is disgusting," or something like that. And I was like, "What is this word?" And I went and Googled it. So to be obsequious is to be like overly bowing down to somebody who's like above you to earn their favor. It's a long word to describe a fairly complex, not complex, but it describes like multiple steps and ideas. So you are somebody's subordinate, you're below them, and you want their favor, and you are trying to gain their favor by being overly flattering to them. So that's what it means.
So you're just a glorified butt kisser.
Yes, it is butt kisser would be a great synonym for obsequious.
A little lower on the totem pole there in terms of vocab. But.
So
you're welcome.
Lord Wald basically says to Pixis, "You're being obsequious." And then, he also makes a mention of the fact that Pixis is the highest ranking military officer
in the Southern Lands.
Southern Lands.
We think he's the commander of the Garrison Army. Right?
Yeah, pretty sure.
He's got the roses on his shirt, which is the Garrison Army.
Mm-hmm. And so he's high ranking official. This Lord Wald, whoever he is clearly also some high ranking official,
He's
some very wealthy
aristocrat,
guy.
some
in the interior,
royal or something.
Certainly acts like it. And so So then a messenger shows up and interrupts them. And he's like, hey, you know, Lord Wald's like, you can't be in here. And he's like, no, there's been an attack. Like, Trost has been broken through.
The wall is
whatever.
broken.
The wall's
Titans
broken.
are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so totally changes the tone of the meeting. Lord Wald freaks.
He like
Pompous
drops
dude.
his glass
Yeah.
and it shatters, and he's like, "You have to save me!" Ah!
Yeah.
And Pixis just stands up,
Grabs
calmly,
the bottle.
grabs the bottle of expensive wine, and says, "I accept this obsequiously as a gift." Right?
Yeah, he drops the line on him.
Starts drinking it.
And then he guzzles it like a boss.
Yeah. And then Lord Wald's freaking out. He's like, you got to stay. You got to protect me. You got to, because, those guys in the front line, like, maybe it's their time to die. And Pixis says something. He says, by the end of the day, there may be more graves to dig than people to dig them.
Yep. He's like, basically, if they've broken through the walls, whether I'm here or not, you don't stand a chance. None of us do. Like, we have to go do something about this, or we're all
doomed. Yeah.
And let's see here.
He's like
and then one of
striding
his
towards
soldiers
like his horse.
kind of hints at the fact that Pixis is letting him win.
Well, yeah, I'd say that's another one of my favorite lines in this episode.
And then he's like, "Be quiet,
because
soldier."
Pixis is like on his way out, and he's like, no, "I'm going whether you like it or not." And he's like, "No, like you have to defend me, and like this is what I'm like paying you for." And like you're getting this like strong sense that this guy is exactly what you think he is, which is a rich weakling, kind of relying on the safety around him. And Pixis is not having none of it. And then that soldier says, I think I wrote it down. Where's this line here?
He says he won't feel compelled.
Maybe he says, "Sir, if a Titan were to attack us, Pixis wouldn't feel so compelled to play down his skill as he did with the chess game." And so he's like dropping lines like, "Listen, he lost you on purpose, buddy. He's like trying to make you feel good."
Yeah. So we see that they were playing chess, which is a long time strategy game.
Yeah.
And we realized the whole time Pixis has been playing Lord Wald this whole time, actually.
Withholding his hand, which we'll see more of. Spoiler.
Well,
we'll see more of Pixis. And you're going to get to see more
Pixis
of
drops
his...
another really nice line to Lord Wald I liked, where he's may you have another, what is it? Did you write it down?
As he's leaving, he's like begging. He's like, "No, come defend my estate." That's one of the things. That's why he was rich. Defend my lands, defend my estate. And he says, I'm going anyway. I wish you another opulent day of sloth and tranquility.
Yes.
Sometimes the translation really nails it.
It's perfecto.
So that kind of ends that scene, and that scene feels a little out of context because we don't know these people yet.
Yeah.
You get where the timeline that's taking place in, but why it's important, which again opens up some new questions that you should be asking. Let's see here. Then we cut to the cadets. Finally. So we're back at what looks like some kind of barracks that must be near Trost somewhere, which is where the attack has happened.
They're all kind of organized, but everyone is afraid. A lot of cadets are standing up. They're getting their orders. They're receiving, but there's a lot of people who are scared out of their wits, crying on the ground. Some vomiting. Some just rocking back and forth.
Is this where the commander guy tells them which section is going where?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get their orders from a commander-looking guy, and he says, "Look, we need to get ready for this because the advanced team already been
gone.
wiped out."
Yep. Things are not going well, basically.
That's when everybody really starts to lose their crap.
Yeah, I'm sending you into a death trap.
Yeah, and your
all the
orders
cadets are going to the front.
Follow this strategy.
Yeah.
And your orders are to stay here and assist until the evacuation is complete, because they got to evacuate everybody again. Trost is getting attacked. They're going to everybody behind the actual wall. If that wall gets breached, who knows what's going to happen? So you got to give your lives to stop this machine, to stop the Titans from coming.
And he says the punishment for desertion is execution. Again, much like Battlefield, all the Battlefield games, like deserters will be shot.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so go to your death. If you try to run away, you're gonna die.
Yeah. Sacrifice your lives if it comes to that, basically.
Pulls a Russian in World War II.
Yeah, you're gonna die either way. You may as well be a hero in the process.
Yeah, go to you, man. So these cadets get all these orders. Yes, sir. They give their salute, right? And as they're all kind of departing, you see the fallout. You see the reality setting in of this is war. Our friends are dead. The advanced regiment, the ones that probably were really well trained, they're all dead. Titans are pouring in. Humanity is going to be destroyed again. People are rocking back and forth, crying, vomiting. We see Jean, and he's on the ground, and he's like, how could this be happening now?
One day before,
One more day I'd be in the interior. I wouldn't have to worry about all this. But because I'm here, dang it, I have to fight these Titans. I have to go to my death. And there's so many people that are locked up in fear. And this is another moment where Eren, being so driven, being the man he is, bumps into Jean. You got this Jean-Eren rivalry again. Jean's like, what are you doing?
What's your problem?
Yeah.
Let's be testosterone-filled teenagers and punch each other for no reason.
I'd be the interior right now, you idiot. Why do you think I'm sad? And Eren's like, dude. And Jean kind of blows up, right? All of his fears are coming out, and he's panicked, he's worried, and Eren just grabs him and says, we've trained for this, right?
Yeah.
People have given their lives, but it wasn't you and me. We were the ones who survived. People dropped out, people were killed, but not us, right?
Yeah.
We're ready to go. We've been trained for this. And he says, we've survived what we survived. We started death in the face. Some died, but not us. You can do this, John. We've trained for 3 years. This is what we were made for. And as he's speaking, everybody else begins to turn. And they're like, oh yeah. And this
people stop throwing up
this
and crying.
indomitable will of Eren gives people hope, whether he's trying to not be inspirational or not.
Yeah.
His will is giving leadership.
Yeah, he's not the hero you thought you needed, but he is doing it again. Which we're in episode 5, and he's done this a number of times already. Mm-hmm. His like sense of purpose and his drive is inspirational to other people, and it's a classic case of actions speak louder than words. Even though in this case he is using his words, but the words coming out of his mouth are not like, hey, I'm trying to stand up on my high horse and inspire everyone. He's like, no, I'm just going to go into battle without fear. I'm going to go into battle with purpose. And that's enough to change people's attitudes. That's enough to give people some courage. Mm-hmm. We'll see it one more time with Armin before this episode's even over.
Yeah.
He kind of has that moment with him. This little rivalry thing is interesting here, especially because Jean, we learned, was 1 day away from being sent to the interior as a military police guy.
Yeah, for all.
He was going to go hang out with the guarding Lord Wald or something. Apparently,
probably.
And here he's gonna have to fight Titans and a ton of Titans, and possibly the Colossal Titan and possibly the Armored Titan. This is for sure what seems like a death sentence. And the only thing that changes his behavior after is Eren like, no, man. This is what we trained for. People died so we could be here.
We're going to do everything 3 years for.
Yeah.
I just love that, like, Eren obviously inspires him, and he realizes, like, yeah, I can't do this. And then he immediately is like, dang it, I'm so annoyed right now. Yeah. And then he goes off to go do what he needs to do.
My rival is right again.
Yeah.
God.
I hate this guy.
So they've just got their orders to get sent out to the various places, and we find out that Eren and Mikasa are in 2 different units. And
how dare they?
How dare you?
They were talking, weren't they? She was like, "Come find me." Yeah.
Well, this is where Mikasa says to Eren, "Hey, listen, like, when we get out there, once like things get crazy, like, come find me." And I wrote some of the line down. Yeah, she tells him,
"I'll protect you.
It's gonna get ugly, and when things get ugly, plans go out the window." Which again, another one of these moments in the show where I'm like, you could say that in context to any real life actual military like battle. You know what I mean? It's when it was fairly common among soldiers, and you'll see this in plenty of like war movies and stuff too. This idea that like, when you get like, it's kind of like a trope. Like there's no atheists in foxholes, and when you get into battle, plans go out the window. Or everyone has a plan. What is it? What's the line?
Everyone has a plan, so you get punched in the mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like once things get violent and get crazy, plans do kind of go out the window. I mean, again, actual wars, plenty of times in history, like men go into battle and lose it and just run before they've swung a sword or shot a single shot because it's like fear overtakes them and the chaos of war. And here's the thing is, in this example, it's especially crazy because we're talking about a battle that none of these soldiers have ever even fought. A lot of them have probably never even seen a Titan. A lot of them are fresh recruits. And not only that, but historically, we lose every battle we fight against these things.
Yeah.
They're extremely
There's
deadly.
no successful battles against Titans. You only survive. You only get out.
Yeah, you're fortunate to survive. And so Mikasa says that to Eren, and she's like, listen, he's like, we're in 2 different units. She's like, no, listen, it's going to get ugly. When it does, when the panic ensues, like, come fight me so that I can protect you. And of course, Eren's ego is hurt, and he's like, protect me, even though
he gets very upset with her.
But right when they're talking, they
get interrupted.
They get interrupted by this high-ranking officer. Says, Ackerman, Mikasa Ackerman, you're supposed to come with me. You're going to come to the rear. Why? All the elite fighters are coming to the rear, and we may not survive this. We need every elite fighter we can. So Mikasa's actually getting like semi-promoted
basically immediately
first
before she's done anything,
because they recognize that she's like an elite fighter, right? And she's like, no, I'm a cadet. I need to be the front. I need to be next to Eren. Don't take me away from Eren, please, right? And he's like, no, you're being summoned to the rear. And she's like, no. And Eren's like, shut your dang mouth.
Does he headbutt her?
I think he headbutts her.
He headbutts her. I'm almost positive. I was like, he just headbutted her
Sometimes
and snapped her out of her freak out. And then she like, you're right.
Well, he says, listen,
It's not about
this
us.
is bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
And Eren's got this vision for the future.
And
got
he's a
this
soldier.
driven will. Yeah. And he's saying this is not about one person dying. Like, sorry, we can't let one person die and get in the way. We can't let 10 people dying. We have to accomplish our goal because all of humanity is riding on this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of our friends have died so far. My mom died. It's not going to be in vain. We have to do what's right, even if we don't want to. Mikasa, you're not thinking properly. You got to think like the big picture. This is bigger than all of us, right? She says, yeah, just don't get yourself killed.
Yep, that's the line.
And Eren says,
She tries to grab his hand. And
I won't allow myself to be killed until I've tasted what life outside these godforsaken walls is like.
What a line. There it is. There's the vision, repeating the mission and the vision. And you're like, this is where you... if the last episode was like the launching pad for like, okay, here's where the rest of the series is going to go. This episode is immediately starting to put bones on that, immediately starting to put meat on the vision. And the vision is we've been trapped. You know, they've been saying these episodes so far. We're trapped like livestock inside these
cattle,
walls.
yeah.
We know there's something else out there. And we finally, in this next couple of like these short clips, there's so much info. They drop so much info on us in these next few clips.
Yeah.
So, so Eren's like, you know, I want to see what life is like outside the walls. And then this is where we get the Armin flashback, correct?
Yep, this is the teacher. They're going to flash back to them learning in cadet school.
Oh, that's what I mean.
About the walls.
yeah, so they get to where they're supposed to be, and then I think Armin's starting to freak out again.
Well, no, the Armin flashback is later. I got him mixed up. This is the one where it's like, okay, you start to hear the voice of somebody who we don't know. He says, surviving historical documents, you know, basically leave very little detail about the Titans or whatever, about their origin. Almost everything we know about them is obscure. We don't know anything about their origins. And it's interesting that he actually calls them surviving historical documents, which means at some point
there was a crazy battle.
There was a purge.
They got lost.
is this
somehow.
like the Roman era where the libraries get burned and we send people into the Dark Ages?
I just assumed that it was, you know, remember they say Titans suddenly appeared. Humanity was almost eaten and they fled. I just imagine them grabbing whatever documents they could at that time and they ran for their lives.
Yeah. So this whole flashback, though, I mean, I wrote down like a ton of details. I know these are all super important, but this would be one episode, this would be one section where I might be like, actually, keep in mind everything this teacher dude just said, because every word he says comes to play in future episodes very quickly, not just like seasons later, but like very quickly, because we learn. Okay,
wait,
go ahead.
How much do we even know about Titans so far? We know they suddenly appeared. We know at least one
They're
of them
huge.
is intelligent. Right, probably two. The Colossal and the Armin, both armored, both seem to be intelligent. The rest not so. We know they're big. We know they eat people.
Yep.
We know they're terrifying. That's pretty much all we know based on what we've seen, but they haven't told us anything yet about Titans.
Yeah.
Well, they're about to tell you some things, and so this is probably an episode you may want to go back and watch again.
Reference.
Be like, okay, I need to remember these things are important things.
So the first thing they tell them is that they basically conclude that they are not intelligent. They don't show, you know, he says it's up for debate whether or not they're intelligent creatures, but for sure they don't have any high level communication between each other.
Yeah.
that they observed.
They're not organizing. They're not swarming together like bees would or like that.
They are not like other life forms, organic life forms, and they lack the reproductive organs. So it's not clear how they reproduce at all.
And there's a ton of them.
Yeah, and there's tons and tons of them. Their body temperature runs abnormally
Very
high.
hot.
They have an appetite for humans exclusively.
They don't eat livestock. They don't eat deer. They
They eat
only
horses,
eat
nothing.
humans.
They don't eat trees. And so he starts to go on in kind of his scientific manner. And so, and the context here is, sorry, go ahead.
He also says that all this information came from the scouts, right?
Yes. This information was gained by the scouts. And so this is all kind of like,
Their research division, the
And
scouts.
the ecology they have.
yes.
Yeah, and they always
Observed.
resemble, for the most part, an average male.
Yeah,
Human
average
male.
human male. And
Just
they,
huge.
what was I going to say? The
Zombie.
scouts. So we kind of learned the purpose of the scouts. Why they call them the scouts is because they're like the full, forward going division to find stuff out about the Titans. So you can only fight an enemy that you know stuff about. The next thing he says is they've existed, we know, for 100 years without their primary food source. So we can surmise that they don't consume in order to live. they're not motivated by hunger. They're just in it for the kill. That's
how terrifying. You see Eren's
What?
kind of
All
eyes
of
go
them are like
wide.
freaking out in their
They're like,
classroom.
wait a second. These aren't just predators. These aren't sharks. These aren't tigers. These aren't bears.
they're not. You can't have empathy on them. They're not like, oh, they're just trying
They're
to survive.
not driven by
Yeah.
their natural
Yeah. I'm
instincts.
sure PETA would be out here like, hey, protect the Titans. No. It doesn't matter. They're here. They don't want to eat you just because they need to eat you. They want to eat you.
They want to eat
They
you,
want to eat you.
and
They
don't
don't
seem
need to eat you.
reproduce. You said that they're like zombies,
Yeah.
Big old zombies.
which is a great analogy, by the way. They're not really. 'Cause They don't
They're
have all the other traits
just
of zombies,
in that
but
they're mindless and they eat
mindless
people.
man-eaters,
and
right?
Yeah.
they actually can heal themselves to a degree. They regenerate. And so if you shoot a Titan in the face with a cannon, within about 2 minutes, it'll regenerate its
the head regenerates. So they kind of go into that. Yeah, the next thing is we've had
Because
weapons
someone
against
asks,
them.
are you saying they're immortal?
Yeah, are they immortal? Because they don't need to
Because they're
eat.
not eating and they've been alive for 100 years,
Yeah.
not eating anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, saying they're immortal, and he says, well, at first we fought them with like cannons, and the cannons weren't very effective. They're hard to aim, and even if you like injure them, specifically, like I said, the head,
Shoot their head off.
shoot
it
the head
grows
off,
back.
it restores itself in about 2 minutes. And he's like, oh my gosh, like they can't die. He says, let's see, that's not the case. He says, he draws this graph, and he says the back of the neck is a vulnerable area, and an attack here is the only way that you can ensure death. And then he shows you the swords, which we've already seen these swords a bunch. Right? We've seen all the scouts and garrison and soldiers. Everybody's got the ODM gear, the kind of like Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
And they also have a set or multiple sets of blades that they carry on them, and these like swords. And he calls them flesh pairing blades, and explains that basically if you strike Titans in the back of the neck hard enough or deep enough,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that will ensure that they don't regenerate. And so one of the things I was kind of mentioning while we were watching this is another example of, so far we've seen like they're flying around in the ODM gear and they've got swords. It does look cool, but other animes or even just other shows might have stuff in there and like in the kind of fantasy just because they look cool. That's not the case. There's a practical explanation for almost everything. And this is another one of those like fine details in the show that like, oh wait, this makes sense even though the show isn't real. They're bringing some like science to the science fiction of the show. So I just really love that little part.
Yeah, because if this wasn't the case, it would actually be, I mean, the ODM gear might be cool just to get away, but it wouldn't be very practical for everybody to have it, right? What you'd do is you'd probably set up trip wires. You'd trip the Titans and you'd shoot them in the face.
Right.
And that's how you would kill something large. You'd shoot them in the knee, they'd fall down, you'd shoot them in the face, or you just try to get a headshot or something like that. But you realize that doesn't kill Titans, they'll regenerate. So you have to actually get up behind them, slash them in the neck. Well, some are about 8 meters tall, some are like 20 meters tall. Colossal Titan's like insane, right? So you have
Taller
to be
than the
able to
wall.
get up behind them and slash in the back of the neck, which is why all of this gear has come into play. This is exactly why they developed
Technology
it.
designed to kill Titans as best as they know how. That's why they're not shooting at them. Like, why don't they shoot them? They're not, because there's a specific. It's all tactical. And remember, in the previous episodes we've seen, during cadet training, they're all flying around, attacking these dummies that have like a thing in the back of the neck, and they're slicing them in there. So they kind of explain why that's.
They're
the
trying
case.
to like slice a specific shape out of it.
Yeah.
Which they show you in the graph.
It's like an orange slice.
It's like
Yeah.
They're trying to
Man, I want some oranges.
take
right
your
now.
2 knives and make them meet and like
Oh my gosh.
cut out a little wedge out of its neck.
We need to make like a little bonus video where maybe we take like 2 knives and like an apple and see which of us would be better scouts who can cut.
Cut the wedge
we
out of
just
the
make
apple.
like a frame of an attack on like a Titan, and then you just like stick an orange in his neck, and then you pull off like I don't know.
Pull an orange wedge
We
out
need to
and
find
eat
a
it.
rope swing to hang from and just put 2 knives. This won't be dangerous at all. Put
So-
2 knives in my hands.
No, we
and let me
need
swing around.
samurai swords actually.
Samurai swords.
If you're wondering, like okay,
And
they
like a
have,
ham hock.
they have all this ODM gear, but they don't have cars. They have all this like cannons and stuff, but they don't have like elevators.
Yeah.
Like what in the world, right? And it's like
They have some technology, but not others.
necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
Right.
You invent what you need to have, right? If you're on an island and you're trying to get a boat, you invent that. You're not worried about anything else. You invent what you need to have. So they've actually honed their inventing ability based on the scouts' research to make these Titan killing machines as best as they can. And this is why they have this ODM gear and not other things that we would think they would have.
So after this,
Oh, can I say one more thing on
Go
that?
ahead.
Sorry. This is what we thought was just general school. This is not general school. This is actually
important.
only military scout.
These are the
military
cadets.
cadet training, right? And so they're being taught all this vital information about
that they're
the
all surprised
Titans,
by. They didn't know before.
that they're all shocked by. This information, because it's only being revealed to the cadets, means it's not available to the general public. General public has no idea what a Titan is, doesn't know that there's a weak spot in the back of its neck, doesn't know that they only want to kill you. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
and
there's secrecy going on.
Yeah,
This
because one of
information
them
is-
says, as if them being huge wasn't bad enough.
yeah, it's kind of a need to know basis, because maybe they're trying to keep the general public like happy or whatever, but basically like there's some secrecy going on, and you find out that runs a lot deeper than just this information. Like if this information they were being withheld from the general public, how much more information do we actually have, right?
So, yeah. So after this big spill of information, which we'll get a few more of these, and it's kind of an anime like thing that they do, where they're like, oh yeah, let's dump some, go do a little backstory or whatever. Then this show will continue to do that. They'll fill in the gaps. You start asking questions, sure enough, they're going to fill in some of the gaps. They'll do it. This next episode is going to be an entire episode of filling in one big gap. So we cut to, they're going out to battle now. So they're in Trost. They're kind of deploying. And then we get Armin is still freaked out, and Eren is there. And Armin's like, I don't know. And Eren's like, basically says,
Well, it's not just Armin. Everybody's kind of freaked out.
yeah, it's Eren's little, like, I don't know if Eren's even the leader, but it's like their little squad. It's their little unit.
Yep.
And they're up on a roof. They're preparing to go into battle. And yeah, they're all a little freaked out, Armin especially. And Eren basically says, like, well, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
take a
go get
shot.
some glory, bro.
Yeah, let's go get exactly.
First kill. Let's
We're
go.
going to get promoted after this.
And he says we can bypass rookie status.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, let's
He's
go prove
so
our worth.
completely unreasonably optimistic.
And Eren's
It's
got
amazing.
He's got this like sub leadership category skill just pumping out. He doesn't even know he's grinding XP for right now. He's just leveling everybody up in the party, and everyone's like, yeah, save some of that glory for us. We're gonna go freaking kill Titan. Whoever gets the most Titan kills is gonna be, the best, bragging rights. He's pulling like a Legolas
the
and
bragging
Gimli,
rights,
you know.
yeah.
And it's like the look in his face. He's like, yeah, like I'm excited. Like he's like a little like
this is
Yeah.
what I was.
Let's
born
go.
for, right? Yeah.
And then like Armin changes his little mood or whatever. It's like,
Armin's
wait,
like, yeah.
no, wait, we can do this. And all the rest
I'm
of his little
ready.
unit.
And there's just kind of like happy moment again, and you're like, please,
Dude,
please.
Don't let this show build you up because they're gonna cut you down. Okay.
Just
Look
like
I
your
just
ex.
put 3 crying emojis.
Yeah, they all had this great moment of like, yeah, we're
That
gonna
was
show
my
the
note.
world. We're gonna show the world we're not useless. Like we're gonna fight back. We're gonna get glory. We're gonna take the fight to the Titans, right? And they start to like just shoot out, and they're all like, yeah, for glory, for Trost, for humanity.
Yeah.
And immediately the music swells,
And you see the
And the
few Titans
spider
and they're
monkey
like, oh no.
guy.
and there's an abnormal Titan, right? And we don't exactly know what this means.
It's the first time you've heard it.
All we know is an abnormal Titan jumps like a freaking spider monkey, and he runs, and Armin kind of knocks everybody away. He sees the attack coming. They kind of all scatter. They barely make it out, and they all kind of hang on the wall. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was crazy!" And this abnormal Titan,
He's wrapped
He like
around it.
Yeah.
it's like a clock
He's got
tower.
the clock tower, and
he's
he
like
slowly
bear hugging the
leans
clock
out,
tower, and he like
he's got
pulls his face away
he's got one of their homeboys in his mouth.
halfway out,
Yeah, legs in his mouth, and he like leans out.
and he's weeping, and he's
And
like, "Save me!"
Immediately, this isn't a fairy tale. This is freaking real.
Yeah. The whole next few clips basically are this unit.
It's so
Like
sad.
again, you kind of get this like vibe, you're like anime vibe, and like you get like things look good now. Like they're gonna go out there and like kick butt, or maybe they're not. What they're showing you right here is like this confidence, even the confidence Eren has, may still very well be misplaced. Just because you have the hope, doesn't mean right in the same way that Eren was trying to I'm gonna go save my mom, like he's a little kid at the time.
That's not how the world works, friend.
You don't have the strength. You couldn't save your mother because you were weak. There is this like facing of the truth, and the show sort of does it for you. They're like, I know we kind of set you up and like you were all excited for like go like kill some Titans or whatever, but the truth is they're way stronger than you think. They're way more difficult, and these troops are untrained.
You've never fought actual Titans.
You've been trained. But
You've been trained
you have
against
no
dummies, and
experience in
maybe
the field.
all of your training isn't good enough. All of your strength isn't strong enough. All of your hope isn't great enough. Maybe these are just so overwhelming. The whole, all of a sudden reality sets in. The whole show just music comes down.
That
you're like,
first
oh,
guy,
no.
like poor mutton chops.
Mutton
Yeah,
chops
the
just
blondie
says,
turned
mutton
into
chops.
help me, right? His dreams.
And he's
immediately
crying, and then they're
smashed.
all just like, ooh.
And Aaron's like, no,
Kicks
I'm
into
not going to
emotion.
stand for this, right? You bastard. No, you killed my friend.
And he's just
This is no
screaming
time.
and flying through and
Yeah.
just screaming,
He-
get back here, I'm going to kill you.
He lets his hot-headedness get ahead of him, right? Because he was focused. Everyone stay together. We're a group. We're going to do this. And they're like, no, Aaron, stay with the group,
Yeah.
right?
And he charges in.
Charges in.
Never wander off by yourself.
Headstrong. He's going for this Titan. He's going crazy. And some freaking
And he's
random,
screaming the entire
Yeah.
time, like, I am right here, everyone.
And some random Titan jumps up in the middle, bites his leg clean
Piranhas
off.
him.
And like sends his trajectory off. He lands like bloody on some roof.
Broken,
And then
incapacitated.
we
Looks
cut
like
to-
he might be dead, like
Yeah.
already.
So then we cut to Armin's perspective, and he's like looking around him, and that's where we start to see the other cadets are like
Chaos.
that one girl gets like knocked
Pigtail
down.
girl
He
gets
grabs her
whacked. Oh
her
yeah,
line
yeah.
and like knocks her
Gosh.
down or whatever, and
So
she's
terrible.
like, "Oh no!" And like kind of this whole squad that was just all friends a second ago are now literally all except for Armin all getting freaking messed
wrecked.
up.
Just
by
getting
Titans.
wrecked, getting swung, getting destroyed, getting eaten. It's just terrible. And Armin again is frozen.
He's frozen with fear.
And he says, "Why can't I?
Why
do
can't I
anything?"
move?
And
Why
as he's
can't
saying
I
that
move?
line, Santa Claus Titan, you'll notice this is one of another great
It's
detail
so
about the
true.
show. That the Titans aren't like uniform in any way.
No.
They're extremely unique, Titan to Titan. They all
Right.
do weird crap.
Finger gun Titan.
Yeah.
The greatest Titan we're gonna
Yeah.
see in season 2 or 3.
Sorry, spoiler.
Season 2 spoiler. Sorry,
Sorry,
guys.
that was a
There's a
spoiler.
Titan who does a really good finger
Finger
gun
gun. Yeah.
move. It's hilarious. So Santa Claus Titan is dropping Armin in his mouth, and actually he gets all the way in there.
And
He starts to slide down in the throat.
Titan,
gross.
Aaron's monologuing. Why couldn't I? Or
Yeah.
sorry,
Aaron's like
Armin.
bloody on the roof, like, oh.
And he's like,
Armin's
Armin,
monologuing.
no.
And he's like, why couldn't I have saved my friends? Why was I so scared? And it's like, bro,
As he's being
think
swallowed.
about that when you're not about to die, please,
Mm-hmm.
right? But fear grips people, man. You get that fight or flight. All of a sudden, you lock up, you
Fight,
freeze.
fight, or freeze.
And it can be absolutely terrible. And so then, right in the midst of this,
So that's when we cut over to Aaron, and Aaron's like, you're not quite dead. And
Aaron's
it's like,
rousing as his friend's being eaten.
I will not let this happen.
Well,
Yeah.
first we go to the flashback.
well, that's what I'm saying. We cut to
Yeah.
Aaron, so you know it's Aaron's flashback, not Armin's, right?
Yeah.
So Aaron has a flashback. He has this like memory happen, and
Oh, yeah, because Armin's screaming.
it's a little Armin and little Aaron, so they're like little kids. And Armin like runs up to Aaron and is like, "Look at this book I found that my grandpa had hidden away. It's about the outside world."
And Aaron's like, whoa, bro, like, you can't bring that around. That's illegal.
yeah.
Anything
get
about
in
the outside
trouble.
walls is illegal. You get thrown in jail for that.
So he tells him some details. He tells him some juicy details. Again, this episode is like loaded with information. He says most of the world is actually covered in water, like salty water, and he gives him kind of this description about the world is big and beautiful, and these giant rocks and
fiery lakes.
Yeah, fiery
and-
lakes.
Yeah.
he just tells him about the beauty and the size of this scope, kind of the world outside the walls.
Yeah, imagine how big the world must be if there's all of that
Mm-hmm.
out there. And we're in this, the walls are actually pretty big, right? It's really big inside Wall Rose, Wall Maria, and then Wall Cena is still pretty big. So if they haven't seen any of that in their walls, how much greater must the outside world be?
Yeah.
Gives them this twinkle, this hope.
Yeah, it gives him a little bit of like, oh wait, and you can kind of see the seeds being sown in little Aaron there of like his adventure and his like, I don't want to be trapped inside these walls if that's what's out there. And he even kind of like scoffs, like you can tell it's like it's not real for him to hear this information because he scoffs and is like, well, if there's salt in the water, like that's really valuable. Like what merchants would have gotten it all.
That
And he
doesn't
says,
make sense.
Armin's like, no. It's so big you can never get to the end of it. Like that's
Yeah.
how big. Like this they call it the sea.
And he's describing the ocean to someone who's never seen the ocean, which I mean that happens even in our country because people born in the middle of the country who've never seen the ocean.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen, I remember I saw a postcard of a mountain before. I saw a mountain on TV, but once I flew next to our mountain, I was like,
Yeah.
eyes were huge. It's so much bigger than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. And so then Armin tells him, don't tell anyone, but my parents are actually going to try and sneak outside the walls and
See it for themselves.
Hang on to that one, folks. Hold on to your butts, okay? Say no more till we get to the
They'll
spoilers
know
part.
what it's like firsthand. And he says to Aaron, promise me we'll go on an adventure together. We'll
Of
see
our
it.
own, like
Yeah.
the person who wrote this book.
Yeah, Eren says we can do it ourselves. We can have an adventure like the guy who wrote this. And so you the flashback is very important because you're like Armin and Eren.
He
My
made
words.
Airman.
Eren and Armin, say that 10 times fast, have bonded and have been friends for a long time and and made this promise to each other that has clearly motivated Eren. Like, we're getting outside these walls. We're going to go see
That's why he
what's
hates
out
being cattle, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
he got a taste of what the good life is like. He got a taste. He tasted and he saw what something beyond the walls is like. And everybody else hasn't had that same taste. They don't know what's out there. They're just content to live like cattle. But once you know freedom, once you've tasted a little bit, you long for that freedom. So he hates being treated like cattle. He hates being trapped in a prison. He wants to go see the outside world. And this is another thing that drives Eren. He wants to get outside the walls. He wants to be set free. And so with that in mind, we see Eren one-legged, bloodied, stirred. He says, no. And immediately as Armin's sliding down this
Somehow we
Santa
don't even
Claus.
see how
Armin's
because Eren-
about to like slide back past the uvula of the Titan.
Yeah.
so gross. And Eren is
And he's
during the
trying to
flashback,
grasp the
or
tongue.
Pre-flashback, Eren is on a roof that's like kind of far away. It's like across the street,
Yeah.
and then after flashback, we don't. One-legged Eren has somehow managed to get like
Well,
to
his
the Titan.
knife is like in his teeth,
Yeah.
and his ODM gear is like somewhere.
yeah.
And he's freaking being more used
he
one-legged
wants-
than full-bodied Armin has ever been in his life.
his sheer grit he grabs
Good
Eren.
word.
He grabs
Armin.
Armin and one-hands him and chucks him onto the roof and is like,
And
I refuse
throws
to,
him out.
I refuse to die like this. We are going to go see the ocean like we talked about.
Yeah, I have to.
While
see
he's
the
like
things we
holding the
promised.
jaws
While he's
open with
holding
his
the jaws
one
inside
good
open,
leg
yeah.
and the knife in the teeth.
And he throws
And he's
Armin
reaching out.
outside of the mouth, and Eren is there by himself with this bloodied look of determination, which we've seen Eren before. And he says, "I am gonna see what's outside those walls. You and me are gonna go." And right when that happens,
Boom.
jaws snap shut. Eren's
His
arm
arm
goes
fly-
flying out. So Eren no longer has an arm. He no longer has a leg, and he's been eaten by a titan.
All the crying
This-
faces.
This was the point in the show because this is like another series of like deaths of all people you know, and you're like, why are they doing this to me? At this point in the show, my first time through, I was like, for sure, Armin is now the main character.
Right.
Like, they
Armin
threw us for a loop.
screams so loud.
Like, you thought it was Eren, and now it's Armin, and it's this. Yeah, truly one of the most horrifying. Like, I've not seen a Hollywood show that
Throws a curve like
that
that.
like curved so hard where I wasn't expecting it, and cliffhangered that hard at the end of an episode.
I
Like,
know.
Yeah, the
like-
cliffhanger is terrible because not only do you see who was your main character, who's giving everybody the hope, get eaten and killed, right? You see Armin on the roof, terrified, knowing his friend just took his place because he wasn't brave enough to do anything about it.
Yep.
And as he screams out the scream of life,
The last cut
miles
is-
away, you hear Mikasa turn, right?
And her hair
And she
glitters in the sun as she turns.
And it's the Princess Bride, right? She hears the sound of eternal torment that she
Yeah.
would know anywhere. The sound of someone who has lost one they've loved. She
Mm-hmm.
knows something's happened to Eren.
Yeah. So then they cut it,
and Armin's surrounded by Titans screaming, nah! And then
so I don't want to say
Good
a whole
episode.
lot. Yeah, good episode, guys.
and now everyone's crying. The end.
I don't want to say a whole lot more because any more speculation. Well, here's the thing: is ask the questions, speculate away. Anything more that I say at this point is going to basically be a spoiler because it'll take you right into the very next episode, which we will do next week, unless there's any final thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts from you guys.
No, this just takes me back to Gurren Lagann when Kamina dies, and you're like, why do all the cool characters, the ones who inspire everybody else, why do they have to be the ones that get destroyed? Why can't?
Dude, rip John Krasinski in Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah. I didn't
gosh.
even want to see two. I know
character
it's
dies.
probably gonna be great, but I'm like, bro, he was
I
my
know.
dude, you know? Think about all he was in Saving Private Ryan, right? All the cool guys who gave their lives.
They all
and you're
die.
like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Freaking brutal.
Let the freaking cowards die. Let the cool guys hang out for a minute if that's not how life is, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, with that, I mean, this is the end of the episode for you out there who are just watched it for the first time. You don't want to spoil it, so we're not going to spoil it for you, but this is your official warning. Wait, before we get to that, don't forget, email us, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to this, Spotify, iTunes, you can listen to this show wherever the heck you want. Don't forget, you can watch it. We're broadcasting live right now on Facebook. You can watch the episodes somewhat edited, but the full episodes on Facebook or YouTube. So there's much more content on there. We've got a Patreon set up now. So patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. You can find us there for some reason you want to join in. Also check the show notes. We're working on merch. We're working on all kinds of cool stuff. So you guys can get involved. But
got some fun things planned for the future. So
oh my gosh, so many cool fun things planned. So all right. Last warning. Pause your podcast. Pull your phone out of your pocket.
Spoilers.
Pull it out.
Spoilers.
Flip down the thing that says pause. Okay, hit pause now. 3, 2, 1, incoming spoilers. Okay, very first spoiler is Eren flies in and the steam mechanic is revealed right away.
Yeah, that's the armored Titan has that steam ability. But remember, he burns later on. He burns some people up.
Yeah,
he kills
like
Armin.
Yeah, he burns
with
him.
The steam. He doesn't burn Eren on purpose. He just
Who knows?
Well, it seems like he can control how intense the steam
why
is.
Wouldn't he just kill
Because
Eren?
later
He's
when
conflicted.
later when he's burning people, he himself is burning too.
Yeah,
and
like
at
losing,
this point,
yeah.
he wasn't doing that because he still had stuff to do, like knock all the cannons off the wall.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that
he chose to not kill Eren. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, here's the deal. I think this is a season 4 question. I think this is something we can't even spoil
the shirt came off.
as non-manga readers. I think this is season 4 question because Armin gets he gets Colossal Titan power, right? In order to save Armin when he gets burned, he eats. They turn him into a Titan.
Yeah.
The syringe. He eats Bertolt.
Yeah.
And gains his power, which means he's going to gain some of his memories.
So you're right. So
we might get some answers about that.
I wouldn't be shocked though if Bertolt pulled a little bit of a Reiner and didn't want to kill his friend Eren, his brand new cadet
who
guy,
he respects a little bit.
Who doesn't know is a shifter yet, though.
They don't know, no, and that's something that definitely changes things quite drastically. But at least in this point, I think he pulls the explosion. He doesn't try to grab him, doesn't try to smash him. He tries to take out the cannons, kick the wall in, and see he disappears. Yeah. Why in the world didn't Eren see little Bertold somewhere on the ground? I don't know.
Also, what happens to the giant Titan body? Because later on, when they
steams.
Well, okay, yeah. So I reckon I was thinking about that too, right? So
there's friggin' skeletons.
Yeah, they leave. Eren always leaves like a dead version of his. Titan. Most kind of seems like everybody does of their shifter.
Yeah,
not just him, but the ones that get killed in the camp with Hange's little experiment one. Yeah.
Well, the body steams away quickly, but doesn't steam away instantly.
Exactly.
I reckon because at this point we've seen Colossal Titan a couple of times and we'll see him again. There is no point at which his corpse has to decay. Mm-hmm. So perhaps besides being large, one of the powers of this Titan is that
he can steam himself into
he steams
a vapor
away basically instantly.
But he must hide himself somewhere in a bush or something like that.
Yeah, we were like, oh my gosh, Eren, look down, frick, dude, like what?
There's just so much steam he can't see anything. Possibly,
maybe he wasn't thinking to look down because why would he expect to be looking for a person inside of that Titan?
Yeah, that's true.
No one knows anything like that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't much of a spoiler because we find this out pretty quickly, but the boulder, I didn't notice this before, that Armin actually points out the boulder to plug it, and like Eren's actually going to go do that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that saves Eren from being killed or being imprisoned is the fact that he could do that.
Let's see here. Pixis, amazing. Again, I don't know if there's any more like spoilers. The Lord Wald. Does that name get brought up again?
He shows up again later in the interior when they're arguing about what to do about Historia.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't remember. Makes sense. He's basically just like you see him here, you don't see him for a couple of seasons, and it's like who cares?
I mean, they do that with like so many characters that they like recycle them, or not recycle them, but they.
He's one of the important voices in the council or whatever that gets cooed and overthrown.
He has his own like palace inside of a moat. Like you'd think he's probably really important.
The other thing is like, you take for granted the scenes that happen in the interior in this point in the show because you don't know that you're going to spend so long having no idea what's going on in there,
and like pissed about it because those interior bastards are friggin' withholding and well, I mean,
they know the truth and aren't telling anyone,
and we know the fact that Eren or Armin's parents were going to go see outside the walls, and the military police killed them most likely. It wasn't Titans. It wasn't anything else.
I didn't get there yet. Yeah. What? Okay, sorry. Back up. Armin says my parents are gonna go outside the walls. They're gonna sneak outside the walls.
Yeah.
What happens later?
My grandpa has this book that he's hid away.
My grandpa has this book that he's hid away, which means that grandpa's been around since before the walls? Question mark.
Or
maybe because
well, the book has.
But don't you remember they talk about? I think they wipe the people's memories every so often.
Every 100 years or something.
Well, yeah.
Was it every 100 years? I thought it was more often.
I don't know what the time
I
frame
don't know,
is,
but that's in my head.
If you remember what the time frame is, but I'm pretty sure what I'm surmising is Eren's grandpa either has this tradition of hiding the book in a spot that even if his memory gets wiped, he'll find it again and relearn about outside the walls.
Like a good place.
Yeah.
Sorry, I spoiled that one if you haven't seen that. But yeah, so there's that. And then there's the parents thing. He says my parents are going to try and sneak us. So
he doesn't say why, but we know that they go on a hot air balloon.
They go on a hot air balloon from that one flashback because I think it's season 2. Season 2.
Season 2.
Right? Yeah, season 2. I think they like have that flashback. You see Armin's like parents, and you realize they laugh.
They don't really blatantly say that that's who they are, but I mean, who else is it? Who else is it?
And because they're smart and
it's a couple,
like
they're blonde. Like
they developed the technology to go and like do this. There's a bunch of mystery there. Like A, did they have some knowledge of the outside world? Did they have more books in the outside world that we don't know about?
At the very least,
B,
they got the bug that Armin and Eren got.
Yeah.
They saw that book and they wanted to know
what was out there
themselves.
But my second question is, because that flashback happens when they're talking about the interior and all the shifty things that they do behind closed doors in order to like keep the people under control.
Yeah.
So was it the military police that like stopped them? And if so, did they kill them? Or did they arrest them? Is there a chance that Armin's parents are still alive somewhere in a prison that we don't know about? Did they come back? Or did they make it outside the walls and get effed up by Titans?
Or did they just get Epsteined, right? Like, oh, it's very sad. They
yeah,
crashed
very sad.
their
They
balloon.
killed themselves.
Yeah,
okay.
it's weird. Yeah, my money's on. I'm pretty sure they shot them. I don't remember exactly, but it was when
you have to wait
the
till we get
military
back to
police were talking about handling issues, and I'm pretty sure that was one of the issues they handled. So,
okay. Surviving historical documents. I'm trying to like go through my notes and find the spoiler parts. Dude, they still, even knowing all the stuff I know about the Titans or whatever, the part where they're describing they have one weakness and they have a thirst for human flesh. Like just that whole scene made me like scared of the Titans again. Even though, like, I know
it's a good mechanic, and we know that the reason that the nape of the neck is the vulnerable spot is that's where the Titan shifters should be residing.
That's where they reside. So we were theorizing about this too. So my theory about this one is that obviously the shifters, that's where they come out.
Yeah.
So when they leave their Titan corpse, they come out of the nape of the neck, which sort of makes sense that that's the vulnerable point on the dummy Titans.
And it's vulnerable for Titan shifters because you kill the controller when you slash that as well.
Right. But the thing is then the dummy Titans, a person doesn't pop out when you kill the dummy ones.
They just die.
Steam and they just go away.
Yeah.
So that's kind of this like ongoing question. But my theory is that there isn't a person in there because there's not a shifter in there. But we know the Titans are people.
Yeah.
They are humans.
At one
but
point.
like with Ymir, she explains that while I was a Titan, she's there, but she's not there. She has no control. She said it felt like a dream.
Yeah.
She explains what life like was as a dummy Titan.
She just lays on the ground until the ground covers her.
Yeah.
Staring at the sky.
She's kind of super immortal.
I mean, that takes a long time.
But she's still there. Like there's still a consciousness of her in the Titan. The other thing that we find out is that the thing that turns the Marlians into dummy Titans is the spinal fluid stuff.
Yeah.
And so my theory is that when you cut the nape of the neck right there, that they're either like the consciousness of the person is there, but at the very least what you're actually cutting is that supply of like the spinal fluid.
The brainstem.
Because they say, even when they shoot them in the head like grows back. Well, it's because there's a spinal fluid that's kind of like back there. Maybe that's the thing that like powers them.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, even this is just completely random biological information, but like if you cut a chicken's head off, if you miss the brainstem, the body will still walk around and like the neck will even move around.
Oh.
And if you like shove corn down the neck hole, it'll stay alive. Wow. There was a chicken
not
back in the 20s that like went around on sideshows on tour that was alive without its head. So like maybe it's that kind of a situation where the brainstem, is at the nape of the neck. That's where your brainstem is. So if they don't destroy that, then it can grow back.
We basically surmise that, when you get injected with this Titan fluid, you transform into this, dummy Titan, and you've got this subconscious mind. You don't have real full control. Some people, it seems to have more control than others, like Connie's mom when she says,
she speaks.
Connie, right?
Like they can talk.
Or that one in that special who was talking about, he was talking about Ymir. Remember?
One of the Titans, one of the dumb Titans?
In the special, in that holiday special we watched. Oh. He was talking about Ymir, and they were like, what the heck?
It's like a major flashback.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
It's a whole episode of a flashback.
Scout, the journals that they find or whatever.
Yeah,
okay, we'll have to do an episode. We'll have to do a bonus episode on that, because that was actually really worth watching.
But we know they at least have some subconscious. They're kind of like, primal beasts, and the only desire they have is to eat, but it's not to satisfy themselves. It's so they could eventually eat, hopefully a Titan shifter, turn back into a human. They don't know that actively, but they're hungry.
Doesn't Hanj tell you that if they eat too much, they throw up and then they just keep eating?
They're searching. And this is actually something just want to tout that I predicted. We were throwing out tons of theories as we were watching this, and I don't remember what episode it was, but somewhere along this episode, I was like, "What if they're eating people to try to get?" a Titan
to find a Titan shifter,
and so
to turn back into a human.
I feel really good about that. I just want to take a moment.
One of my only predictions, it was absolutely true, that I guessed, we're talking like episode 3, if even that far. I said to Daniel, I was like, I think that the Titans are a wartime technology, and that they're like a leftover wartime technology. Mm-hmm. Like either one or more civilizations went to war with this Titan power, and this is what's left over. Which I was pretty close, actually.
Yeah,
it's 2 civilizations. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, the guy teaching the class for the cadets, is that Erwin's dad?
No, because
I don't think so anymore.
Because it was
because of the timeline.
Because of the timeline.
Sense, okay.
We thought it was Erwin's dad, but I think that's
because Erwin's dad was like a professor.
That was at a different place.
But I think Erwin's dad had blonde hair. I don't think he was quite that old, or maybe
and he was
his
teaching
hair
in
was
general school. He wasn't teaching scouts.
Yeah.
Let's see. I feel like I had one more big one. I don't know. I mean, there's really not much else to discuss.
Aaron's
except
alive.
for the fact that
Eren isn't actually dead yet. He's in the stomach of Santa Claus Titan, and he's gonna bust out.
But the real question for me is why. I mean, he must have not just gotten killed, and if he was killed, then he would have given his Titan shifter power over to this other Titan. But why, when he gets eaten, does he not transfer his power over to? Do you have to eat the spinal?
He has to be digested first. You're probably.
Saying, yeah, we don't know the time frame for from the point at which you eat them to the point at which you gain their powers isn't necessarily clear.
Eren was swallowed whole. He wasn't bit in half.
That's probably what it is.
Because when Armin eats whoever it is,
Bertolt, yeah,
he snaps him in half and swallows the top half of him. So he's dead.
So
Eren got swallowed whole, mostly whole. I mean, his arm and leg are missing, but his spine is intact. His head is still attached to his body. He's not dead yet, so he has to be digested
or something. I mean, there's definitely a time frame. I guess we'll find out. It's been so long since I watched these episodes, I can't fully remember. But there's definitely some elapsed time. But it must not be long enough that he gets for that transfer of power to take place, because Eren busts the frig out.
I'm pretty sure Armin is still nearby when it happens, so it seems like it's pretty quick.
It's got to be a sucky way to go. It's just someone just pops out of your stomach and
I have a Jonah in the belly of the whale feeling every time I see some scene like that, where they're like, oh, the giant tongue and all the nasty stuff. I'm like, oh,
gross.
This is disgusting. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, this episode was long, like all the other ones.
Good stuff.
But spoilers part is over. Hey, seriously,
do you have any predictions that you predicted that came true?
That's the stuff I want to hear. I mean, obviously this is gonna be not live after this is recorded, but let us know. Hit us up in the comments, YouTube, Facebook, both those. Give me your theories, give me your ideas in the comments section. I want to know what were you thinking when you watched this episode in particular? What? Because this one's a curveball. Were you really like I said, I thought they were changing main characters at this point in the show. I was like, oh no.
Okay.
I thought
it's Armin, I guess.
This show is not about Eren Yeager. It's about his legacy and how other characters move on from it.
Yeah. Anyway, want to hear from you guys again. Send us an email too if there's something you think should be included in the show. Maybe we can go back and hit some previous stuff that we missed. beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, like I said, find us in the comments at our YouTube, Beyond the Basement Podcast, Facebook, all that good stuff. Should we clink our glasses to end this one too? Yeah.
Definitely.
Clink. Boom, boom. Give my Sasagio salute here. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.